How do you know you're providing bad therapy? Or if you're not yet a licensed therapist, but you're hoping to become one, how do you know what bad therapy versus good therapy actually looks like? I recently did a video all about how to know you're doing therapy the right way. If you have not seen that, please go watch it. It's super informative, and we're not going to be able to get into all of that today. Today, I want to actually talk about how to know that you are not providing good therapy or that it's really bad therapy. Now, as a mental health professional, I would hope that everybody is out there providing good services and being the best therapist that they can be. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I recently was on the interwebs and I stumbled upon a Reddit thread that was talking all about people's personal experiences with therapy. And it was really disheartening to read. Now, as a therapist, I hope that people have good experiences in therapy, right? And I hope that people then go tell other people that they know about their great experience, and that encourages them to go to therapy. I think I can speak for the masses here when I say that that is the hope. Unfortunately, a lot of people actually have bad therapy experiences. And as therapists, we need to know what not to do and what bad therapy actually looks like so that we don't unintentionally become the bad therapist. Now, I think for the most part, a lot of people would say it's pretty obvious that a good therapist is warm, compassionate, supportive, they're non judgmental, they make you feel very comfortable talking to them, and they're easy to talk to. And yet, you can have all of those qualities and still be a bad therapist or still do things that are really crappy or awful or just not great that negatively impact the client's experience. And so, it's not fair to say that, well, if you have all of those qualities, you're a good therapist. It goes way, way deeper than that. And so we need to look at what people are saying about their therapy experiences and make sure that we are not doing any of those things. And I was absolutely appalled at some of the things that these therapists are up to. And so if you have done any of these things, please seek consultation. Please seek supervision. If you have been a client, either before or while you've been a therapist and you've had a therapist do these things, I just want to say I hate that you've had that experience, and please let that be a tool of what not to do for your clients and utilize that to show up better for the clients on your caseload. Okay, here we go. Buckle up. One of the first comments is, my friend told me about her old therapist hitting a vape pen during session. The therapist tilted her head off to the screen because it was telehealth and blew the smoke, but didn't realize the smoke was captured in the screen. My friend said she was pretty sure it was a THC vape because shortly after hitting the vape, the therapist sat stone faced for the rest of the session, barely blinking. Okay, if you're the client, that's alarming, right? Like that seems like something is off. I hope we're all feeling that way. They then go on to say, my friend said she asked her if she was okay because she was just dead staring into the screen, and the therapist just nodded and didn't really speak the rest of the session. She felt like the therapist was high as a kite. Mind you, my friend is in therapy for substance use recovery. What in the world? Listen, therapists are people. We've all got our own shit going on. And if you are a therapist, which I'm anticipating you are, I really encourage you to do everything you can in your power to be mindful and self aware of your own shit and to be actively taking steps to address it and take care of it so that it doesn't impact the clients in a way that is harmful. I really, really encourage you to be mindful of that. Now, we are imperfect people. And so, a lot of times as therapists, we find ourselves in the helping profession because of our own personal experiences. And that is absolutely fine. But we have to be aware and actively working on our shit. We cannot show up and act this way. And I'm baffled at some of the things that people say happens via telehealth that literally would not happen in an office. Like I cannot imagine a therapist doing this in an office when it's we're sitting here together, right? But for some reason, telehealth seems to be like the wild, wild west of therapy, and it really shouldn't be. It should be the exact same services, just via telehealth. There's a screen in between us, but I should still be doing all the same things that I would do if you were here in the room with me, and vice versa. As the client should be doing things that they wouldn't do if they're in the room with us either. So this is just absolutely wild, and I wonder what the hell was going on. Also, as we go through this, if you have thoughts, I'm always curious to hear what they are. Make sure you leave them in the comments below. Line with telehealth issues, here comes another comment. It says, I had a therapist take her laptop outside with her dog and then just stare at the screen to watch her dog. genuinely baffled me. I would, I'd be baffled too. She knew I was also a therapist. Uh-oh. She was young and a newer therapist. It was a requirement for me to see a therapist at the clinic I was getting my ADHD medication from. I didn't pick her out, and I quickly asked for a new therapist. Again, with the you wouldn't do that if you were in session with me and I was like in the same office with you. So why are you doing that when you're working from home via telehealth? Like that's wild. And the fact that this person was also a therapist, if I had a therapist do that, I would probably have a really hard time keeping my composure and not calling them out on that. That's just my personality. But wow. I just I wonder what this person's experience would have been like if they weren't a therapist and didn't know that that wasn't okay. And if they would have just tried to kind of like stick it out and what other bizarre potential unethical behavior would have popped out at a later time. Someone else said, I was telling my therapist about my son's death and she nodded off. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but don't do that. Another comment says, my old therapist was riding in the back of an Uber during our session once. Not sure how we're maintaining confidentiality and how we are protecting HIPAA, and if this was a maybe a substance use session, how we're protecting CFR 42 Part 2 or anything else. Do not do your sessions anywhere but in an office with a closed door, with the ability to make sure that no one else is hearing you and that you are not multitasking or doing anything else that's distracting. No. This next comment says, again, in line with telehealth, I had a therapist pause our session because she was doing a CEU on her phone in the background and had to interact. Again, with the multitasking, why are we doing that? How unprofessional. Like, I cannot imagine my therapist being like, um, I know you're processing a lot of deep shit right now, but like, could you hold on? Because I just got to let them know I'm participating in this training. Huh? Wild. Mind blown. Also, I think we need to have more training around telehealth because for some reason people are getting in the sense that you can do things during telehealth that are just you would never even be able to do if someone was in person, and that's just a whole other issue I'm already noticing. This commenter said, I had an initial session with the therapist and she was sitting in her bed that had no sheets on the mattress and I couldn't get past it. It didn't help that she followed that up with going, why do you think you're not over it, when discussing being held hostage for a month by my violent ex. I really don't know how a lot of these people get licensed. Okay, we want to make sure that we're always in a very professional space. Nothing distracting in the background for people to look at, nothing derogatory. Obviously, we want to make sure that we look professional. You being in a room or a bedroom is fine, but I shouldn't see your dirty mattress. I shouldn't see your unmade bed. I shouldn't see your dirty clothes on the floor. Like, I want to make sure that I am able to do that if I'm going to work from home, that I do that with a very clear, clean, not distracting background. Um, Also, that just picks up a very weird vibe. Like, I would have been put off by this, and it sounds like the client was too. And then it sounds like the therapist also was not validating. They really were asking questions that maybe weren't really worded the best way, that caused the client to feel some type of way. And that was not helpful either. But we also have this other piece where the commenter's like, I don't even understand how this person got licensed. And this is the problem. The problem is that we need to make sure that we know what we're doing and we are doing it effectively, and that we are doing it competently and confidently and ethically. And if not, then we find ourselves in a really bad situation where we might be ending up providing bad therapy. And that's on us as a mental health professional. Like, we have to make sure that we're providing good services and being well trained and well supervised and well informed to do what we need to do. This is not it. This person said, I caught my therapist in her glasses playing Candy Crush on multiple occasions. I called her out on it. She denied it, and I doubled down with the photo I took of her with the reflection. She started screaming about how I'll never understand how burnt out she is from seeing dozens of clients a week because insurance doesn't pay her well. A decade later, as a therapist myself, I get it. I still think it was her responsibility to adjust the conditions of her private practice to address this burnout instead of thinking the way she handled it would have been sustainable. There's so much to unpack here. So, first off, kudos to this commenter for being like, I'm going to become a therapist despite this bad experience, because I could see how that would be really off putting. It sounds really off putting, but I see you doing something that is inappropriate for our session. And I, as a client, actually feel vulnerable and ready enough to confront that to you. And you then starts, you first deny it. And then when I tell you I know you're lying, you start screaming at me and you start offloading on me and you start telling me about all your personal crap and you blame it on being not compensated. Like, what? What? Don't do any of that. That's bad therapy. Don't do any of that. That is just wild. This commenter says, my therapist was in an Apple store getting her electronics serviced. Didn't tell me she was physically present in the store until about 5 to 10 minutes in. Said she needed to call instead of video chat for tech issues. That was the last straw. She also tried to get me into multiple MLMs. That's multi-level marketing, if you don't know. I'm glad I was able to catch on, but sometimes I wonder how many people she's been able to swindle through therapy. Very charismatic, but holy shit, that was a rough and probably the most invalidating experience I've had with a therapist. Okay, again, we are not being professional. We are conducting sessions outside of a HIPAA secured space. We are having a dual relationship and or trying to utilize our relationship as leverage to get clients to have a dual relationship with us and buy into maybe a side business or a side hustle that we have. And then now this client is feeling like that it wasn't even really effective, appropriate services. She was more being like taken advantage of or swindled. Don't do any of that. I hope that's clear. Oh, wow. And then there were also multiple commenters who said that they too could see that their therapist in the reflection of like their glasses or the screen via telehealth was doing something outside of paying attention to them. They were in a different browser, they were online shopping, um, which is just, again, so inappropriate, so wrong. So I hope at this point you're feeling a little bit better about yourself and the services that you provide, because I oftentimes see where therapists get really, really down on themselves. It's easy for us to do. And we worry that we're not doing it correctly. And if you have not done any of these things, I would be pretty confident in saying that you're probably providing good services. These are wild things. We want to show up professional, competent, confident, ethical. I want to be warm, compassionate, and understanding. I want to make sure I'm paying attention and that I am not acting in ways that I would not act if someone was in the office. Like, I get the central theme from this thread that a lot of this has to do with telehealth issues. And maybe we need to look closer at who's providing telehealth, what that looks like, proper training, making sure things are set up appropriately, and there's some type of, I don't know, maybe just something governing like telehealth providers. But the reality is that you can become a telehealth provider, you can offer telehealth services and have no training whatsoever to do that, which I think this really sheds light into how that might be an issue, because there's no oversight, there's no accountability, and that's obviously a really big problem and negatively impacting people's experiences. I hope, again, from this video, you're taking away the fact that you are probably doing a lot better than you give yourself credit for. And as long as you're not doing any of this wild shit, you're probably doing pretty good. And if you have done any of these things, seek consultation, seek supervision, take a step back, take a break, change careers. Please don't keep trudging forward. This is really bad. This is bad therapy. All right, guys, until next time, bye.